Hello, this is Miss Carlson, and I've got a tutorial here for explaining how I want you to complete the Costas Levels of Questioning assignment. So in your set of slides, this is the first slide in your set of slides, and you'll notice up here it says a link to Persepolis Excerpt 2. You're going to need that to be able to do this assignment. So this activity is a way for me to look at your comprehension of Persepolis Excerpt 2. It's just another way of me checking your comprehension aside from doing a quiz or a writing example or something. Well, I guess this is a writing example, but there are several ways that teachers can assess your comprehension, and this is just my way or one of my ways of assessing your comprehension. What I really like, though, is that in checking your comprehension, I can also check on your ability to do these higher levels thinking skills, that you are able to reach all three levels of Costa's levels of questioning. Now, I've got 5 questions total. You're only going to complete 1 of the 5. Costa's levels of questioning, if you've not seen them before, sometimes they're seen as a house. I did circle and list some of the skills that you're going to be able to show me that you're able to attain or achieve or master. It's possible there are other ones too, but I think in this assignment I'm going to be able to see that you can do level 1, which is the lowest level of questioning and doesn't take a heck of a lot of brain power, but that you're going to be able to identify certain frames from this excerpt. You're going to be able to locate them, maybe label them, I don't know. Then you're moving up to the next level where your brain has to be a little more taxed, where you're having to assemble them, classify them, these frames, and then the highest level, which is that you are applying what you know, your knowledge of these particular frames, deciding, evaluating, justifying why you've chosen these particular frames to answer the question. You'll see what I mean, I think, a little bit more as I go here. So first I've got an example for you. So your examples or your question is going to be a little different than this, but let me show you how I came up with answering this particular one. So you're going to include your chosen frame from Excerpt to the Bicycle and your written explanations of them. That's what you're submitting for me. So you're going to show me an example of how children will often pick up on what adults are doing and use those behaviors at play. That's something that children do, and Marjani Satrapali is no exception. So here I've got I've pasted my 2 frames that I've chosen, frames 2 and 3 from the bicycle. I had to use my snipping tool to do that. And then I've got my written explanation for how these particular frames answer how children often pick up on what adults are doing and use those behaviors at play. I've got my example or my written explanation, my justification for using these particular frames. And my explanation goes like this. In frames 2 and 3 of the bicycle, Marjani is seen with her friends as they are play acting, pretending to be popular foreign revolutionaries, Che Guevara, Fidel Castro, and Leon Trotsky. It is likely the children have heard their parents discussing these leaders and have seen them on television as well. The children do not understand the depth of what they are playing, but they are merely parroting what they see and hear around them. We know children do this, right? And this is what the kids are doing here. All right, let's do another example together just for further clarification, and I'll show you kind of how I get to this point. All right, so here is just another example. Include your chosen frame from Excerpt to the Bicycle and your written explanations of them. An example, this time I'm looking for an example which shows Marjani is becoming more infatuated with the revolution than her desire to be a prophet. If you remember in excerpt 1, she talked about wanting to be a prophet someday, and people kind of laughed at her, so she ended up changing her um, her answer when people ask her what she wants to be when she grows up. She starts saying she wants to be a doctor because she finds that that's just a more acceptable answer, but she really wants to become a prophet. In excerpt 2, the bicycle, we start to see that she's becoming more infatuated with the revolution than her desire to be a prophet, and this asks me to find frames which point that out, which prove that idea. All right, so in this, I'm going to need to now go to my excerpt 2 of Persepolis, the bicycle. So I've got to go over to that, and I've got that open here on another tab, and I'm looking for where she starts to become more infatuated with the revolution than her desire to be a prophet. All right, well, here we see her right away looking at, play acting, being these famous revolutionaries. But I already used that one, and it doesn't exactly show that she's more interested in that than she is being a prophet. Although it does say here, my faith was not unshakable. Okay, that's an interesting one. I'm going to keep that in my memory, remembering that. I might come back to that. And I go through, and I've read this before, obviously, so at this point, I'm just, kind of reviewing what I've already read. All right, she talks about the revolution here, but again, I don't think it's showing that it shows she wants to do this more than be a prophet. But it's definitely starting to show me that she is starting to become sort of obsessed with the revolution, right? Here's where she talks about being enlightened by certain books, and we see her kind of reading through these books. She talks about how she has this famous comic book called Dialectic Materialism, and she kind of shows us what she's reading here with Descartes and Marx, more Descartes and Marx humor. Here's God. It was funny to see how much Marx and God look like each other, though Marx's hair was a bit curlier. Ha ha ha. All right, so we've got some conversations with God here. Okay, she's talking about her mom and dad, talking about burning down the cinema. All right, and then there's these frames about what happened at the cinema, this awful situation that happened where people got locked into this movie theater. She kind of sees the souls of these people or imagines this. All right. She kind of shows us her parents talking about the demonstration. All right, now we see her in a frame here where she's talking to God, which she does quite often, we know. And she's saying, I want to go too. She's not just thinking it, she's saying it. It's not a thought bubble, it's an actual dialogue bubble. So I'm assuming she's saying this to God. I want to go too. So maybe she's overhearing her parents talking about this demonstration. Here she puts on a hat. Do I look like Che Guevara? God's like kind of bored with this and starts to leave. That's interesting because that does kind of show her, that she's playing Che Guevara and God is bored with this. All right, that might be one I could use. Here she's got a different hat on saying, I'll be better as Fidel Castro. Oh, and then she says, where are you? Are you there? She's looking for God. All right, this might work. This might be... Okay, I'm going to come back to that because that might be one that I can use for my example. Now she's marching off to her parents' room, throws open the door and says, I want to come with you tomorrow. Okay, that also shows that she's pretty obsessed with the revolution. She wants to go demonstrate. She talks to them about wanting to go and do this demonstration. Here she's saying, for a revolution to succeed, the entire population must support it. Her parents don't really want to go with them, don't really want her to go with them. It's too dangerous. They haul her off to bed. Here it says, God, where are you? She's crying. That night he didn't come. That's really strong. Think that's one of the frames I'm going to want to use. If we look back at that question again, what I'm trying to answer is an example which shows Marjani is becoming more infatuated with the revolution than her desire to be a prophet. Quite a few frames I could use here. I kind of want to narrow it down to maybe 2 or 3. Again, that last frame is really strong because it's showing God doesn't even come back to her because he's kind of bored with her. But I also remember I really liked where she was play acting with God in the room. All right, so I'm going to make a educated decision to pick these particular frames. I don't know if it's showing you or if my pointer is on here. I want to pick this frame where God, this profile of God, and she's saying, I want to go too, because she's still talking with him here, not really showing she wants to be a prophet, but her wanting to be a prophet is the reason she's having these conversations with God, right? I really like how strong this is, though, not just where she's playing dress up with God, but I like this one where he's getting bored, so I might choose that one. I really, though, like these frames, and I think they really hit home with this question of her showing she's obsessed with the revolution instead of being a prophet, where she's searching for God. So I think I'm going to pick this one where he's kind of bored with her. Don't I look like Che Guevara? Then the one where she says, where are you? And then I think I'm going to end with my third frame on God, where are you? That night he didn't come. So I'm going to choose 3. I'm not saying you have to choose 3. You can choose just 2 if you'd like, especially because I didn't give you a lot of room. All right, so the one where God is leaving the room, the one where she says, where are you? And then the one where she's in bed crying. I'm going to pick those 3. So I'm going to use my snipping tool. You might either have that already on your toolbar. I tend to always type it under where it says type here to search. I always just type snip and then it pops up for me. I'm going to take a new snip. I'm going to pick this frame. All right, so I'm cutting and pasting that into my slide, or my answer slide. And I know I got to try and fit 3 of these, so I'm going to kind of make it smaller here. Hopefully I won't run out of time. I only have 15 minutes to record this video, but let's see. All right, and then I'm going to pick this one where it says, where are you? So again, I just search snip, take a new snip. I'm probably going to run out of time before I get to the written portion of my answer. So I'm going to pause this for a minute and come back with all my snips in place. All right, I'm back and I've got all of my frames pinned here. And just so you didn't have to be bored watching me type out my answer, I came up with this written explanation. I'm not saying it's the best in the world, but it does explain why I chose these 3 frames and how they show that Marjani is becoming more infatuated with the revolution than her desire to be a prophet. So here's what I came up with for my written explanation. It says in frames 31, 33, and the last frame. Now I had to go through and kind of count my frames, right, so that I could cite my examples, right? I need to show what frames they are so that somebody reading my explanation could go back and find them as well. In frames 31, 33, and the last frame from the bicycle, we see Marjani has become infatuated with the revolution, as shown in frame 31, where she sports a hat to resemble the famous revolutionary Che Guevara. And oops, I wrote, and God appears, and God appears. Some people like to capitalize God. I will do so here. Che Guevara, and God appears to be bored with it because we see him exiting. Of course, God would be more interested in Marjani's hopes of being a prophet. Of course, God would be more interested in Marjani's hopes of being a prophet. Then M has on another hat and sees that God has disappeared. I'm running out of time here, by the way, so this might cut off on me. The final frame shows her in tears because she can no longer see or speak with God.